How to negotiate an offer on your first house for beginners. So this video is intended for first-time buyers and will provide you the information and tools in order to approach placing an offer on your first home. And be sure to stay around until the end, where in this week's bonus tip, I'll let you know a fantastic property plugin to download which will help you with your negotiations. I'd like to stress that this is for first-time buyers, this video, and not for property investors. Every time I've ever done a video trying to help first-time buyers about negotiating an offer, I always get some smart-ass investor trying to explain how it should be done. So if you're an investor, go away. When you're a first-time buyer, it's completely different to whether you're an investor who can afford to put in embarrassing lowball offers, can string the process out over as long as you like, and you've already got and own your own home and probably multiple other properties, so it doesn't really matter if you don't get the property. When you're a first-time buyer, emotions are different, the experience is completely different, and you're not in a position to risk losing the property like an investor is. And of course, you don't have a large supply of cash that you can call upon from other properties and be more appealing to the seller. This also assumes that the property you're negotiating on is correctly priced and the market we are in is more of a settled or balanced market. We're taking more of a generic approach rather than a hugely detailed look, such as understanding the type of housing market we're in, such as a seller's market or a buyer's market. We're not going to do that, as the information in this video should help you intuitively know what to do based on the information you find. Let's get the basics first and walk before we can run. We will touch on the different markets at the end and how to adjust for that, but let's look at the basics of negotiating and placing that first offer and the different options you have to effectively every property on the market. Right, now that's out of the way, let's get into it. Step one. So the first part of the house negotiating process is to find out as much as you can about the property and the position of the vendor. Vendor is the term used for the seller. Key information to understand is the following. When was the property first listed? If the property was listed 9 months ago, then why has the property not sold? It's worth noting that a property that has just come on the market, you've got less chance of negotiating a lower deal, as the vendor will be interested in understanding the interest the property received first before accepting a lowball offer from the first viewing. Have there been any price reductions? This is always good to know, as it paints a picture. If the property has been on the market for a long time with no price reductions, then maybe the seller is not as serious. Price reductions indicate that the seller is motivated to sell. So if they're reducing their price in line with market conditions or in order to sell. You don't want to mess about with someone who's just trying their luck on the market, because they could pull out at any time. What is the position of the seller? Are they looking to buy a property themselves? Are they going abroad, moving abroad? Are they going into rented? What is important to the seller? For example, if they were after speed and that was their priority, then you've got more of a chance of getting a deal. Where if they're in no rush, then getting a deal might be more difficult. Knowing the position of the seller helps you understand the full picture and something known as a property chain. So if the seller also needs to buy a property, it means you can't move in to the property you're buying until the seller is ready to move into theirs. The bigger the chain, the more likelihood of problems. As a first-time buyer, you have an advantage as you don't have a property to sell, and therefore you're chain free. How much interest is there in the property? If there is loads of interest, then your competition may increase the amount you need to pay for the property, and quite often keen first-time buyers may pay more than what the property is actually worth. So if it's a property that ticks all the boxes and you absolutely love it, as this is a property you're going to live in yourself, it's not always about buying below market value, it's about securing that dream property as well. Property is worth what you are prepared to pay for it at the end of the day. Step two. Once you are armed with all of the information about the property, you can then consider placing your first offer. Again, every property is unique and there's no one single approach that's going to work on every single property and every single market. You need to use the information above to help guide you to place that first offer. Now, when placing your first offer, the biggest mistake to make, and how to put yourself on the back foot is to place your maximum offer as your first offer. If the maximum you can go to is £400,000 and you're looking at properties for £405,000, chances are you might not get this deal tied up unless it's a property that's been on the market for a long time and there's not a huge amount of interest for some reason. Maybe there's no drive, maybe there's no parking, it's not very good, then possibly you could go in with a lower offer. However, if the property is £405,000 and it's just come on the market, it's in a prime location, then your chances are going to be considerably lower. Remember, we're looking at a balanced market at the moment. So if the maximum you can go to is £400,000, then you're looking at properties, say, for £375,000, then, that's a good place to be in. So let's take an example of a property for £350,000 that's just recently come onto the market. You view the property and you love it. You've decided you would pay the asking price for it as a maximum, as it ticks all the right boxes for you and you can't afford to lose it. You've viewed 10 properties already and this is by far the best, that one you've been looking for. So let's have a look at the different approaches you could take. These are the different approaches you could take to any property on any market, in any type of market. Option 1, a lowball offer. We don't know, but the vendors might take £325,000 for it. They probably won't, but they might. Placing a lowball offer is like placing a marker to understand the vendor's position. From this offer, you'll receive a reaction, which will help you understand how close or far away you are from a possible deal. Let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of a lowball offer. Advantages. You're putting yourself in the best possible position to get the property for as low as you possibly can. Working up from that point, meaning your finishing point will be lower, maybe over 2 or 3 offers compared to starting with a higher offer. Disadvantages. The seller may find a lowball offer insulting, therefore putting you at the bottom of the pecking order and seeing you as a less serious buyer. Also, you're extending the amount of time required to get a possible deal agreed, which could mean other buyers step in with a higher first bid, meaning they might be taking priority from that point if they are in a similar position to you. Option 2, going in below the asking price. So this isn't a low ball offer and it's also lower than, going in just below the asking price. So maybe taking around 5% off the asking price, for example. So for this property in mind, this would be an offer of £332,500, definitely close into the asking price and is much more unlikely to offend. Advantages. Going in below the asking price by around 5% would show that you are serious, but it also gives you room to come up with another couple of offers and still have an opportunity at getting a discount from the asking price. The reaction after your first offer always acts as a marker and gives you an understanding of how close you are. Disadvantages. When you go in below the asking price, you always risk another buyer, usually first-time buyer with hungry eyes, offering the asking price straight off the bat, especially if it's the perfect type of family home in a prime location. If I'm buying a property for myself to live in and for my family, then I'm not so much interested in squeezing every penny out of the property that I can, compared to maybe if I lived on my own and could afford to take my time. So your situation also dictates how to approach the situation. Option 3, going in just below the asking price. So in this instance, the property of £350,000, let's say we would go in at £345,000, which is just below the asking price. This is usually the area where the investors start saying this is poor advice. It would be if you're an investor, but you're not, so let's carry on. Advantages. So going in just below the asking price shows you're very serious about the property and that there's a much higher chance that you're going to get an offer accepted straight off the bat or with 1 or 2 small tweaks upwards. It will also reduce the amount of time required to negotiate, meaning you're less likely to be outbid by someone else. And the vendor will more likely focus on you from the outset. Disadvantages. Going in just below the asking price means you could be paying more than what you need to. The position of every vendor is different and they might have been prepared to accept £340,000 for this property and therefore you've just done yourself out of £5,000. So, just below the asking price, £340,000 might be an option as well, but then you are increasing that time that it would need to take to tie the property up, give someone another opportunity to step in and be prioritised over you. If you offered 340 and they offered 345, then you might have done yourself out of the property. So it's a balancing act. Again, the approach and the option you take depends on all of the information you found out about the property and the situation you are in. If you can afford to take your time and you're not under any restrictions to move out of your current property, for example, then coming in just below the asking price might not be the best option for you. Where if you're in a situation where there's a lot of pressure, there's time deadlines, you've got a family, your current situation means you're bulging at the sides, for example, then paying a little bit more will hold value for you. General negotiation tips. So it's always good to try and have 2 or 3 stage approach. This means it gives you an opportunity to get a discount off the property and means you're less vulnerable to being taken to the asking price from the outset. With your second or third offer, I would always say this is my second and final offer or my third and final offer, which indicates to the seller you won't be going up anymore. Bear in mind that over the long term, a property usually always at least doubles in value. You know, this is based on factual information on the property market. You might find yourself in a buyer's market or a seller's market. A buyer's market is where the supply hugely outweighs the demand. So as a first-time buyer, you've got plenty of choice and can afford to be more picky. The seller knows this and therefore you've got a much bigger chance of getting a lower deal tied up. So I'd be considering option 1, a lowball offer, or option 2, going below an asking price as your first offer if you're in a buyer's market. If you're in a seller's market, this means demand hugely outweighs supply. So for every 1 property being sold, there's 20 buyers waiting to buy the property. This means the seller can afford to be more picky and therefore the buyer is going to have to pay a premium to have an opportunity to purchase that property. In this type of market, it's very unlikely you'll be successful with a lowball offer. And one way to success maybe is the third option by going in at just below the asking price or even the asking price if you do not want to take any risks when you're in a seller's market. In some instances where there is a perfect storm of being in a seller's market and let's say the property market has been further stimulated for first-time buyers, maybe a stamp duty reduction or a big rate drop, you may experience a buying frenzy where first-time buyers will put over the asking price as the first offer. You'll know if you're in this market, and in this type of market there's no discounts available 99% of the time. So as an overview, there's 3, maybe even 4 options you have when buying a property in any market type. A lowball offer, below asking price offer, just below asking price offer, and even asking price offer, and in very unique situations going above the asking price. It's understanding which one of those approaches will lead you to success based on the type of market you're in and the type of information you have about the property. And equally as important, understanding the priority of the vendor so you can best match how to approach putting that first offer in. I also think it's a good idea to try and build a rapport with the vendor. So when you're viewing the property, be really friendly with them, have a nice chat with them, that sort of thing, so that you stick out to them because, when you're selling a property, there's emotional attachments. The seller wants to see their home go to the right owners and be looked after. Now, I also like to back up with building rapport with vendors, maybe placing a short video or letter with your offer and state why you're offering on the property and why the offer is perfect for you. You've got a beautiful family home. This is just right for me and my family and my pets. It's got a lovely garden that my daughter's going to enjoy. That sort of thing to, bring that connection closer. That could be the difference. Bonus tip. So download the Property Log plugin from Google Chrome. Once you've done this and you look for properties on Rightmove, you'll see that you are provided with information that's important about the property you're buying or looking at, such as when the property was first listed and any price reductions. This can be really helpful, help you understand more about the property and where to put in that first offer. Mortgage warning. As a mortgage is secured against your home, it could be repossessed if you do not keep up the mortgage repayments. So thanks for watching today's video. Hope it's provided you with value. Any questions, let me know in the comments, and good luck with placing that first offer. I'll see you in the next one.